With us today, we have Jan Mitchell-Johnson. Jan is a Renegade Grant Coach. Welcome, Jan.
Hi, I'm so glad to be here. So my name is Jan Mitchell-Johnson, and I am a grant writer specializing mostly in the education field. I write grants for schools and districts and charters all over the United States. I also have a online training website called Renegade Grant Coach, which is renegadegrantcoach.com. In the past 10 years, I've earned almost $130 million for my clients.
Now, today's topic is percent versus percentage point, or, I love your title, Jan's biggest math pet peeve.
It's a big pet peeve of mine because it's a very simple distinction, but most people don't know what that is. And that's what we're going to clarify here today.
Let's start from the beginning then. Just what is a percent?
What is a percent? Very basic question. Let's get that established first, right? A percent is a way of expressing a number. So you might think of it as a ratio, and especially as a fraction of 100. For example, you see the number 45 with a little percent behind it, and you know that means 45%, or 45 per 100, 45 parts out of 100. You can also see it written as 0.45 or 0.45, or even 45 over the number 100.
Now that we have that settled, Jan, just what is a percentage point?
A percentage point is the unit for the arithmetic difference of two percentages. Now that sounds kind of fancy, but it's just the difference. So to subtract, the difference between 70% and 40%, for example, is 30, but it's not 30%. It's 30 percentage points. So think of it just as the difference or subtracting one number from another to get the number of percentage points.
Well, Jan, where is this leading to? What's the point?
The point of knowing the difference between these two things is when you're writing grants or anything really, it shows that you know your stuff when you're talking about these two things correctly. Now, in grant writing, math is very important, right? We don't want to get the budget wrong, for example. We want to make sure we add the numbers up and we get that math right. But we also want to be sure that we're talking about the need for the program that you're proposing in a grant. And one of the ways that we talk about need is we talk about the percent of people who are doing X, or the percent change, or the percent that, graduation rate has risen X percent. And so we need to understand the difference between percent and percentage point to show that we know what we're talking about, and so that we can use the numbers to make our points. Maybe we're trying to minimize something. Well, should we use percent or percentage point? Maybe we're trying to show how needy a population is. Which one of these things should we use? So we're going to talk about how to calculate percent and percentage point, and then that way you'll know which one to use to make your point even clearer.
Give us an example.
Great. I would love to give you an example of this. Well, let's think about students, passing a state math exam. So this is something in education that's very important, right? And so you can think of whatever area is important in your field. But for this example, we're going to use passing the math test. So in 2011, let's just say 50% of students passed the math exam. Then 1 year later, in 2012, 60% of students passed the math exam. So we went from 50% passing to 60% passing. So here's the question. What is the percent increase from 2011 to 2012? Most people would say, well, that's simple. It's 10%. Wrong. 50% to 60% is a 10 percentage point increase. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to take the larger number, which in this case is 60%. You're going to subtract the smaller number, which is 50%. Remember, we said the percentage point was just the arithmetic difference. So 60% minus 50% is 10, and that is the number of percentage points that the number of students passing increased by. So 60 minus 50 is an increase of 10 percentage points. Now, we want to decide the percent increase, not percentage point, because we just figured that out. We're going to add one more step to the math problem. So we took 60, we subtracted 50, and we got the number of percentage points. Now, to calculate the percent difference, and this could be an increase or a decrease, but in our example, this is an increase, we're going to take the 10 percentage points and we're going to divide that by the starting point. So remember, in 2011, we started with 50%, which was the original passing rate in this example. So we're going to take 10 and divide it by 50, which would give you the fraction 1/5 or 20% increase. So then if you did the math further and divided 5 into 1, you would get 0.20, which would be 20%. So let me just say that again. We went from 50% to 60%, which is a 10 percentage point increase, but it's a 20% increase because 10 divided by 50 is 20%.
90% of the population would have answered that incorrectly, and you just opened up a lot of eyes.
Great. I agree that a lot of people don't know the difference between those things, which once it's explained, people go, well, of course I understand that. But there's a way to spin this so that you really are understanding why you should know the difference. So at this point, you might be saying, so what? Right? If you don't have a need to use this, you might be saying, so what? But if you're a grant writer, maybe the light bulb is going off above your head at this moment. So if I'm trying to say that our program was successful, which sounds better, that we increased test scores by 10 percentage points or that test scores increased by 20%, or the number of people passing, that is? So which is better, 10 or 20? Well, 20 is better, right? But we don't want to misuse the math and say that it increased by 10% because, first of all, that's incorrect. Now, why is that important? Well, if I'm reviewing your grant, and remember, grants have to be read by human beings, and they have to, they score you and make sure that you have done everything you need to do so that you can get the points, so that you can get the money. If I'm reading your grant application, and I see that you've done the math wrong here, I'm now going to question a lot of things about your application. I'm going to question your budget. I'm going to question your goals and objectives. I'm going to question that you know what it takes to get the situation you're trying to improve improved. So we can spin it a little bit and use the number that sounds better, but we also want to be sure that we're being factually correct so that we're not calling into question the rest of all this hard work that we've done. Numbers are a very powerful and compelling way to convince people about your argument. Exactly. Numbers are very persuasive. How you can use this to your benefit once you understand the simple difference is, first of all, you can just report some straight facts. Give the whole picture. And when you're looking at the whole picture, you also want to say, what are the facts not saying? So, for example, if somebody says, well, 27% of the ninth graders are passing English. Well, first of all, that doesn't sound very good, right? 27% are passing. But what even sounds worse is how many are failing. So you would say 73% are failing. That's the same fact. It's just a different side of the fact that even paints your picture a little more dismally, which, can be psychological to a reviewer and think, wow, this problem is really bad. You're not misstating the facts. You're just stating the other side of the fact. So it's really important to know what the facts are and how you can present them so that you're saying the whole picture. You're giving them the whole picture. This is really the type of practical, hands-on how-to that our grant writers can take back and put to work in their proposals right away. Thank you so much. You're so welcome, Lou. It's a fine point, but it's one of those things that will take a good application and make it great, and it's the mark of a true grant writing professional. I really appreciate the opportunity to teach people this. Now you know one of my biggest math pet peeves.